What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode here of the BlockHash podcast, and happy holidays heading into that time of year already. Today on the episode, we have Nikolay Volf, CEO and founder of Gear Technologies, to talk about Gear.exe and what they are working on going into the new year. Nikolay, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on, man. How you doing today?
Yeah, doing great. Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, thanks for having me on this show, and happy holidays as well.
Happy holidays. Pleasure's all mine. To get things going, I'm sure people would love to know a little bit more about yourself, to give some pre-context to Gear Technologies. If you want to share a little bit about your story and how you got into the Web3 space and maybe how some of that led up to Gear as well.
Yeah, sure. I myself worked in crypto for ages already, so I think I joined the space even before Ethereum was out. So at least first release of Ethereum, because actually the team I joined was led by Gavin Wood. Gathered a few engineers and we started to re-implement Ethereum in Rust. So this was I think the end of 2015 or something, and um, and then we kind of did a lot of stuff with Gavin and other guys. We re-implemented Ethereum. Then we kind of did some other stuff, like less known stuff. For example, we also implemented Bitcoin at some point. It was all before Gavin envisioned this thing that became Polkadot, and then we worked around that. And once Polkadot was out, I kind of thought that a little bit about my own project, and this is how this company Gear Technologies came out. So we kind of I always try to kind of provide the best development experience for guys. So I mean, like if you are developing modern, for example, Web2 space, you just write a couple of line of codes. You have every piece of infrastructure around you, and you can just push it on some web server, and it just works like this. And then I was always trying to provide the same experience for Web3 guys, and this actually what Gear Technologies is about. It's about provide application platform to facilitate the development for Web3 and this currently I'm working on. Few other guys joined me, and now we have like a great team and doing. We already launched. I mean, it's a little bit more for further topics, I guess. So this is my short story.
Tell me a little bit about Gear Technologies. Give me some background on that too. Like, what is the core mission for you guys and what you guys are trying to achieve generally?
We try to provide best development experience in the space. So and we kind of always so we have the standalone network which is called Vara network, and a lot of stuff that we are doing is already there. So it's kind of live up and running for a year already, completely bug free, totally decentralized, layer one with utility, on the level of top layer ones in the space. But for us, it was one of the steps that we want to achieve. Uh, the second product that we're currently doing called Gear.exe, and basically it's the same kind of modern blockchain development, just working also on top of Ethereum. So it is able to kind of compose with everything Ethereum has. It can interact with all the users Ethereum has, all the liquidity over there, and this currently our goal to kind of provide Ethereum guys which kind of struggle with a good user experience, struggle with with massive computation that can be done either by kind of some kind of trustful supercomputers like other rollups, or by or limited by Ethereum computation capacities on its own. So we are trying to kind of make application development for Ethereum uh, very kind of, first of all, decentralized as it was envisioned from the beginning, but second of all, as frictionless as other modern blockchains have in their pocket. So
But yeah, I've heard about Gear.exe and how it's this new computation engine for Ethereum, and you explained it a little bit. But I'd love to learn a little bit more, like specifically how that can be leveraged for Ethereum dApps by developers, and maybe what some of those key benefits are.
Yeah, so key benefits. I mean, probably Ethereum guys know a lot about of this coprocessor thing. So there are a few projects in this space. So essentially, it's a coprocessor, but modern coprocessors they kind of try to postpone their development and their deployment, so because they're basically they are based very much on zero knowledge stuff, which is not there yet. So we don't have real time zero knowledge proofs and everything. What we have uh, on the contrary, what we have now on Ethereum is a liquid security thing, which basically allows to secure things. So Gear.exe best works obviously with zero knowledge proofs, but until we have this, very fast and effective, I would say, practical zero knowledge proofs for general purpose compute. They are practical for some application, but they are not practical for general purpose compute at this point. So until then, so we best work with them, but until then we kind of rely on this liquid security thing, which basically allows you to secure a lot of things, including some heavy computations. And how it can be utilized is basically every time you kind of lack the Ethereum capacity to do some things, be that either storage or computations. For example, you want to match 10,000 users in some order book against some 10,000 other users. It's impossible to do in Ethereum itself because of it, and people invent many tricks to make this happen. For example, like automatic market makers and methods and other stuff. And so every time you have that problem, you can think about using Gear.exe, because it's basically like it can either store some big data for your Ethereum applications, or and provide compute on top of that, or just compute or just data. And uh, it's essentially every time you need this sidecar that will help you do verifiable compute and verifiable storage, then you can basically use Gear.exe. It can be anything. Obvious things is like very high computations about order matching, about about some verified compute on top of Ethereum history, for example, and many other stuff can be done.
Okay, interesting. Like in line with some of that stuff, are there any examples of adapts in the Ethereum ecosystem today where you think Gear.exe would maybe significantly improve their performance if it was applied?
We don't have, for example, trustless exchange that operates at the same utility level as you can see in the centralized exchange. They were appearing some kind of tries on that problem, but they end up be either not decentralized, or even like completely not decentralized, or with very limited functionality. So one of the things that we are going to take is this space. Also, for example, autonomous agents, but not autonomous agents which are kind of run at the at the off chain, but rather such autonomous agents that run verifiably on this side chain, so to speak, in this coprocessor cores that we deploy on Ethereum.
Okay, interesting. And I've seen a lot of bridges in the space, and I know that they've been very common in the past for connecting a lot of chains and interoperability. But I know that Gear.exe is actually bridgeless. I'm curious how you guys went about maybe pulling that off and making that work for people.
Yeah, bridges is because we basically derive our security from Ethereum itself, and basically our network is has this Ethereum security as just one of the security, and state as just one of as a one of its actors. So, and inside this network, it's also contains all the messages that Ethereum might have, and all other messages that other actors in the network have. That would be application and users. So basically, just one big network, including Ethereum. So Ethereum is just a kind of one of the things that our network kind of is aware of from the beginning.
Okay, interesting. And I see a lot of talk about rollups in the space. There's a lot of L2s out there, a lot of different ways to try and scale, especially on Ethereum. And I know Gear takes a different approach, if I understand correctly, with parallel execution. And you might have touched on this already a little bit, but how does this make Gear a bit more faster and scalable without, relying on some of these rollups and some of these bridges, like from a more technical standpoint?
Yeah, so essentially, what ROP is basically this. I mean, apart from a few exceptions, it's basically the same Ethereum, just it's actually the same execution framework that would be EVM, and almost the same kind of networking, also completely the same, and essentially they are kind of cheap until they're underutilized. So, for example, if they would be if the utilization of these rollups will be the same as of Ethereum, then they basically will have the same performance and the same price, because they either rely on this centralized sequencers that are basically supercomputers, and then we kind of not even talking about decentralization anymore, right? Because it's that's a bunch of supercomputers, and nobody except these guys who run these supercomputers can operate the network. So it's not about decentralization anymore. And if they are not kind of relying on these supercomputers, then they want to rely on this, like, decentralized sets of nodes, and then they run it into the same problems that Ethereum runs. So that would be a low performance and inability to scale as the hardware scale. So at the modern times, for example, CPUs are not scaling by increasing frequencies, right, on the CPU cores, right? They increasing the number of cores. And this is how now hardware scales, by increasing the units that are capable of doing work in parallel. So and UM, which is foundation of all this execution that we have in in Ethereum and in ROP space, it's essentially is not parallelizable per se, because it has like this call model. It's not asynchronous. It's very good for many applications when you have this synchronous composability that like these big transactions can be kind of enacted as a whole. But if you want to do kind of scalable system, giant scalable system that accommodates all the users in the world, all the users on the planet, then, and essentially this is just a synchronous system, right? Because all the sectors doing their things like in not in synchronous way. They're doing, this guy do it now, this guy do it like an hour later, and then you try put them all in one giant synchronous machine. It's like, it's close to impossible, right? So eventually you have this asynchronous components all over the system anyway. So and it's a well-known computer science truth, or so to speak, that to make your system parallelizable, your distributed system parallelizable, you need to have this asynchronous actors that can run in parallel. And that's exactly how we organize our execution framework, where every kind of actor, be that Ethereum user or Ethereum application or Ethereum smart contract, be it our application, our user, like inside this small network, they all kind of have this asynchronous actors where they can just send message and say, okay, I'm done. And now it's the turn of other actor, and they can all be run in parallel, and this is how it works.
Okay, and that I imagine plays into the promise of Gear having no fragmentation, which I know is another issue here in the space with fragmented liquidity and functionality. How do you guys kind of approach that guarantee with this unbroken promise with no fragmentation? I imagine those things tie in.
Yeah, this is actually the same argument as about bridging. Ethereum is not like we developing our network and then make it so it can interact with Ethereum. Like we have the whole system that includes Ethereum from day one, and Ethereum can transact with anything that we have in our system, and this way it's there's no bridging obviously, and no fragmentation, because liquidity can freely kind of float between Ethereum and our coprocessor and everywhere.
I also know that Gear.exe uses a reverse gas model where dApps can kind of control the fees because those are quite a headache for developers and users these days. How does that kind of change things a little bit here in the Web3 space? Because I haven't seen that before either.
Yeah, so reverse gas model is pretty simple. It's basically if you kind of hardcore Ethereum user, you kind of used to that. Everything you do on Ethereum cost you some gas, which is essentially your Ethereum token, and reverse gas model just makes so that applications pay for that. What it gives, it's really kind of takes this burden of of uh, from the users to find this gas, find the token. They can interact with all the applications completely free, and it's kind of up to applications to formulate how they will charge users for what, and by default they don't charge, but they obviously can kind of invent their own mechanism on how they kind of take money for the value they provide for users, but it's up to any applications how to organize this. Obviously, there are some common patterns to do that, but they are not forced to use this, and they might even be free for many type of interactions. And once they kind of like, for example, I know like pro model, pro subscriptions, you pay money until you get to the pro subscription, you can use some free interactions with the application, but it's up to applications anyway.
Gear.exe also achieves instant finalization, correct? And if so, can you also explain kind of what that means in practical terms for users, but also maybe some of the benefits there for developers?
Yeah, it's modern technique which is kind of already works in many modern blockchains. For example, when you kind of interact with Solana, you kind of just put a transactions, and you just 1 second, and it's there if it's not rejected, but it's a different story. Anyway, in the happy path of you interacting with Solana, so to speak, you just press a button, and what you wanted to do is already there. It's a great feeling actually, which Ethereum lacks, so to speak. And there are several ways to do it, but modern on top of Ethereum, we kind of limited because Ethereum has this like slow finality. So essentially, you need to wait, like for example, minute or two at least, to get the feeling that something happened on Ethereum and it won't roll back at some point. So you can rely on that. And this, in Ethereum, it is supposed to be solved by pre-confirmations. For example, you kind of know in advance that there will be certain entities that will produce a block at some point, and you kind of negotiate with this. Oh, please include my transaction. For example, I will pay you some premium, but you will provide me a guarantee that these transactions will be included in this block on this particular index in this block, and and we use something like that until Ethereum has this native thing over there. And once they also have a native pre-confirmations on Ethereum side, we can just compose with that, and it will be like a native all around. But until Ethereum we will have our own version of that mechanism, and basically until you touch some shared state between Ethereum and Gear.exe network, then it's fine to have pre-confirmations purely on Gear.exe side.
Awesome. Another thing I found really interesting was that you guys can provide real-time updates on Ethereum, like visible on like Etherscan and those kinds of places, which sounds quite different. I don't think I've seen that quite often in this space either. How do you guys kind of make that happen while also kind of sticking to Ethereum's principles of security and decentralization?
Essentially, it's like coprocess work. What they do, they kind of figure out what computations needs to be done on Ethereum, because everything that happens in the Gear.exe also need to be originated on Ethereum, apart from some things. But generally, you can never leave Ethereum and it still interact with Gear.exe pretty much flawlessly. And the way process works, they kind of observe whatever happens in Ethereum, and once something that they need to handle happens, they utilize Gear.exe network to provide these computations. And the Gear.exe computations, at least at first stage, are secured by liquidity staking protocol we currently integrating with Symbiotic. Basically, you have a certain guarantee that these computations were made correct. For example, $1 billion guarantee or something like that. And once this decentralized computation are done, the result is posted on Ethereum, and in the same way that you would have called regular Ethereum smart contracts, you get the events, the application updates and everything, with just one block delay or two blocks delay or whatever the current workload of this network.
And then I know you guys are preparing for testnet as well. Do you guys have a date in mind tentatively or anything solidified?
We already kind of live on Holesky. Uh, Probably at some point we'll kind of say that okay, we now kind of have a feature freeze. We won't be adding anything new to the protocol because some things we are kind of tweaking and integrating with different things. But there will be some certain date. I guess it should be end of January, something like this, where we say, okay, now this works completely as we plan it to work, and it will have some time to live on Holesky testnet, and then we go live on mainnet.
And then what do you guys have planned for the new year in regards to both Gear, but also Gear.exe? Anything exciting in terms of updates or announcements that you think users and developers should keep an eye out for? Is these things kind of kept under wraps and secretive until then, or what can you share?
Yeah, I guess we can share that there will be once we integrate Symbiotic, there will be like a great opportunity to participate in already in the testnet economically as well. The other things we currently deploy. Uh, so we have this Vara token, which secures the Vara network, and we currently deploy so it will be also hosted on Ethereum and kind of be liquid on both Ethereum and on Vara network itself. So it will be kind of bridged token that can live on two networks. So not only that, actually. On top of that, you will also be able to transact pretty much between Vara network and the Ethereum, because we'll deploy like a full bridge over there. And the Vara token being liquid on both Ethereum and Vara network is just one of the applications of this bridge. So these things I think is on top of my mind currently.
Awesome. Any key events or conferences or engagements that you guys are going to be attending potentially in 2025 where people maybe can meet with you guys in person or chit chat and get together?
Yeah, I always try to go to every major conference. I think I always go to token Also, DevCon, obviously. Sometimes I visit Polkadot events such as, Sub-Zero. I think they also started this Web3 Foundation Summit, Web3 Summit, I think. So I might also want to go there. And I was happy to respond to any invitations to less known events as well. So
Awesome. And then kind of final question as we slowly start to wrap things up. Curious what your take is maybe on the state of Ethereum these days. There's a lot of competition out there, a lot of other chains like Polkadot, for example, some that are built from the ground up to be I'd say a little bit more better because Ethereum is an OG. It's been around for a while. And Gear.exe really gives it a chance, I think, to outperform and move beyond some of the limitations of maybe L2s and things that have, I think, made it a little bit more clunky compared to other chains. But heading into 2025 and all the interest starting to surge back into the space and a lot of new development and exciting applications being built across chains. Do you think Ethereum will be able, even with Gear, be able to continue competing at this level? Like, is Gear, you think long term is a good solution for Ethereum to help it kind of get to those levels? Or do you think there's other things that Ethereum also needs to work on to improve?
interestingly, they always find a way to be on top, I guess, because um, last they call it cycle or whatever. It seemed like Solana, for example, might take a lead, but I mean, if you kind of see the numbers, still even the momentum of Ethereum is greater than that of Solana. And especially with the invention such thing as liquid staking, the next major breakthrough, I guess, will be like a real-time zero knowledge proofs. With the invention of these things, Ethereum won't have any disadvantages compared to modern layer one networks anymore. Unlike, for example, Polkadot, I'm a little bit sentimental about Polkadot because obviously I developed some parts of it. Yeah, obviously it's more kind of well thought from the ground up solution. But I guess even Gavin said this that this sharding thing, this uninteractable shards is not the way to go, and many as also layer ones also try to deploy something like shards, but it's really kind of impeds the composability as a whole. And we see this in Ethereum as well, because obviously you have some application on Arbitrum. In what way it can be composable with an application on I don't know, like on Stacknet, right? It is like it's not possible, right? And so it's unfortunate that Ethereum went a little bit that way, but as guys already, for example, guys like Justin Drake, also they proposed this thing like base drops, which basically can be made interactable with all other base drops, essentially, just by sharing the sequencer. And also, but this kind of lead to that sequencer need to be like another supercomputing point of failure, and also it requires real-time zero knowledge proofs, which is not there. So I believe the next wave of innovations, so to speak, will be around first of all about about real-time knowledge proofs, zero knowledge proofs, which allows a lot of composability between system parts, like user experience. One of the things that is supposed to be addressed by this pre-confirmation thing and similar. Yeah, this is, I think, what would be next wave of innovation on Ethereum. And Ethereum always, as I mentioned, stays on top, and really, nobody ever surpassed Ethereum at this point. So I guess it might be some rule about that.
Maybe there's still the dApp ecosystem is largely dominated by Ethereum. Maybe that changes in the future, but for the time being, that That seems pretty solidified. Where can developers go to get more information, find documentation, to learn a little bit more about Gear itself, but also Gear.exe? Is that all up on the website or anywhere in particular?
Yeah, we have gear-tech.io. Also, not sure I mentioned it, we have our Vara network up and running for more than a year already, and the development experience is completely uniform across. So any application deploy on Vara network, you can as well deploy on Gear.exe, and it will just work in Ethereum. Also, we will have our white paper published quite soon also, so there will be like a very comprehensive description on how this all things work, but it's mostly for protocol development. And we also have we'll have an update on our user space libraries that will accommodate development on Ethereum as well, so should be quite packed soon on this side.
Nice. Expecting the white paper maybe Q1 of 2025 as well, or is that gonna?
No, it will be come like before New Year's.
Oh, okay, pretty soon.
Should be right now.
Awesome. And then for users, how can they find you guys on social media? Do you guys also have a community on Telegram or Discord where people can kind of jump in?
Yeah, totally. We have it all. We have a nice Twitter and Discord as well. Stuff there.
Nikolay, this has been a really good episode. Learned a lot about Gear.exe and some of the advantages that it can provide to Ethereum and some of the advantages it can provide to developers. Excited to see how it continues to develop out and how you guys continue to play out with this going into 2025. So thank you for taking the time to come on and telling us all about it, enlightening us, and excited for next year. I think a lot of good things are happening. So keep me posted on what's going on with Gear, and let's do another episode in the new year as more developments continue to roll out for you guys.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. Great questions, and it was nice to be heard by the community.